$445,000. That's how much money the internet raised in about 2 weeks to fund a legal fight over used Lego bricks. To put that in perspective, the collection at the center of this story was worth, at most, $250,000. The public donated nearly twice the value of the bricks themselves, not to buy them back, to take the company that lost them to court. That company is Bricks Minifigs, a franchise of more than 300 stores across the United States and Canada, built entirely on buying and selling secondhand Lego. At the start of May 2026, it was a quiet, profitable 17-year-old business that most people had never heard of. 30 days later, it was facing a viral scandal with tens of millions of views, a federal racketeering lawsuit, accusations of police collusion, store owners being harassed from Oregon to Florida, and a court-ordered gag on the YouTuber who started it all. A gag order issued as I'm recording this yesterday. So here's the question. The dispute at the center of this disaster involved one store, one customer, and a pile of plastic bricks. How does a problem that small become a crisis this big? The answer comes down to 5 decisions, 5 mistakes that taken together form a kind of masterclass in how to destroy a brand. Let's get into it. First, the company. Bricks Minifigs is not Lego, and that distinction is going to matter. Founded in 2009, it's an American franchisor. Independent owners pay for the brand and run their own stores, buying, selling, and trading used Lego sets. In 2018, 2 brothers, Ammon and Matt McNeff, bought the company and moved its headquarters to Provo, Utah. Ammon became CEO. By 2026, the network had grown past 300 locations. The business model works because Lego behaves less like a toy and more like an asset class. Rare, sealed sets appreciate over time, and the resale market is worth billions. Which brings us to the collection. Ed Mansell is 83 years old and in poor health. Over decades, he assembled the kind of Lego Star Wars collection that serious collectors describe with reverence. Hundreds of sets, many sealed, plus over 1,000 minifigures. His son Brian put its value at $200,000 to $250,000. And here's the detail worth remembering. The store that took the collection promoted it on its own social media as being worth, quote, well over $200,000. That post would come back to haunt everyone involved. In 2023, the Mansell family signed a consignment deal with the Bricks Minifigs store in Kaiser, Oregon, near Salem, run by franchisees Crystal Law Gorman and Benjamin Gorman. Consignment is simple. The store sells your items, takes a percentage, you get the rest. The family says the store sold roughly half the collection, and then in November 2024, everything changed. That November, corporate terminated the Salem franchise agreement, citing financial defaults by the owners. 2 new franchisees, Brandon Best and Joshua Johnson, took over the same location. Same store, same shelves, new management. But when the Mansell family asked for their Lego back, there was a problem. Much of the collection couldn't be accounted for. The previous owner said it had been moved to a, quote, secure off-site location. Corporate would later claim the items were already missing before the new owners took over. The family alleges the identifying stickers that marked Ed's sets were removed from items in the store. Somewhere between those 3 versions of events, an 83-year-old man's life collection had effectively evaporated. For about a year and a half, this remained what it was, a painful, local, invisible dispute. The family says they spent that time asking for documentation and answers. The company says the same thing about the family. We'll get to that. Either way, nothing moved. Then, in May 2026, a YouTuber named Ben Schneider, known as Reckless Ben, a creator famous for confrontational, stunt-driven investigations, picked up the story. His series on the missing collection exploded. Millions of views within days. Mainstream coverage followed. Kotaku, Fox 5, CBS News. And at that exact moment, Bricks Minifigs stood at a fork in the road.
You take the red pill.
It had a small, expensive problem and a very simple way out. What it chose instead is why this video exists. Mistake number 1, attack the number. When the story went viral, the company's first major counter move wasn't an apology or an offer. It was a valuation dispute. CEO Ammon McNeff publicly claimed the collection wasn't worth $200,000 at all, but somewhere between $60,000 and $80,000.
Investment would be upwards of $60,000.
Later, that figure moved again. In his Fox 5 interview, McNeff put it this way, quote, the initial number was promotional. The more realistic value of the collection was closer to about $100,000. Think about the optics of that sentence. The $200,000 figure the company was now calling promotional came from the company's own franchise store, and the new number had already moved once, from 60-80 up to 95-100, whatever the true value was, and courts may eventually settle that. The public read it one way. The victim says 200, the company says 60, then 100. If the number is negotiable under pressure, what else is? There's a principle in crisis management that you can dispute facts all day, but the moment you appear to be shrinking the damage done to a sympathetic victim, the story stops being about the dispute and becomes about your character. From that point on, Bricks and Minifigs wasn't arguing about Lego anymore. It was defending its honesty, and its next statement made that job much harder. Mistake number 2. Not our problem. On May 21st, the company released an official statement. Its core argument: corporate was never a party to the consignment deal because consignment is, quote, expressly prohibited under our franchise agreements. A clean legal wall. The franchisee did this, not us, except the wall had cracks. The previous franchisee claimed her agreement with Mansell was explicitly permitted under the contract she had. Critics circulating the actual documents argued that the operations manual discouraged consignment, but the franchise agreement allowed it. 2 documents, 2 answers, and then there was the security camera. In footage from the store transition, footage McNeff was asked about directly on Fox 5. A corporate representative appears to say the company would take on the consignment deals. The CEO's response to that question in the interview, he didn't address it. He stated only that corporate hadn't known about the deal before that footage was taken. And one more detail, from the company's own audit, more than $50,000 of similar inventory had been sold by the previous franchisee through the company's point-of-sale system. The software corporate controls. Here's why this matters beyond the legal question. A franchise sells one thing, a brand customers can trust regardless of who owns the location. 300 stores wear that logo. When something goes wrong and the company's first instinct is they're independent operators, customers hear something very different. The sign on the door means nothing, whether or not it holds up in court. Not our problem is a confession in the marketplace. And then the CEO went on television. Mistake number 3, the interview. On June 4th, Ammon McNeff appeared on Fox 5 to explain the company's side. He'd already done one live stream interview the community had widely panned. This was the recovery attempt. It produced the 4 words that now define the scandal. Quote, "We had a franchisee go rogue. Watch what happened next, because it's a case study in how modern audiences process corporate communication. Within days, a LEGO community channel published its analysis of the interview. The title, Bricks and Minifigs CEO went on Fox 5 News and made everything worse. 350,000 views. The community's complaint wasn't that McNeff lied exactly, it was the pattern they saw, statements that were technically true with crucial details left out. He said the company had offered Mansell the remaining inventory. Community channels noted estimates put that leftover inventory at $5,000 to $7,000 against a 6-figure loss. He said consignment wasn't part of the model, without addressing the franchise agreement that seemed to allow it. And there was a deeper problem. Across weeks of statements, interviews, and blog posts, the company's story kept evolving. On the value, on who knew what, on who was to blame. As one community channel put it, the story seemed to change alongside the public backlash. In a trust crisis, an evolving story is worse than a bad story. Audiences forgive companies that say, "We got this wrong." They don't forgive companies that seem to be drafting their version in real time. By early June, Bricks and Minifigs had lost the argument in public opinion, so it moved the fight to the one arena where it could still win.
Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained?
Mistake number 4, win in court, lose everywhere else. On May 30th, the day after the CEO's livestream, BAM Franchising sued Reckless Ben, Brian Mansell, and others, alleging a harassment and extortion campaign under RICO, the federal statute written to dismantle organized crime.
I should have you whipped for your impudence.
Now, here's where honesty requires the full picture, because this story has no clean heroes. Schneider's methods were genuinely extreme. Undercover operatives, impersonation schemes, stunts at the company's headquarters. He was arrested more than once, and the court took the company's side. The judge granted a restraining order, writing that Schneider's team had, quote, engaged in a campaign of extortion, harassment, defamation, nuisance, interference, trespassing, stalking, and intimidation. and that the company was, quote, substantially likely to prevail on the merits. Schneider denies the worst allegations and says he was never given the chance to tell his side. On June 10th, the gag order landed. He can no longer publish about Bricks and Minifigs at all. Legally speaking, the company is winning, and it doesn't matter, because look at what each legal victory cost. They demanded Patreon shut down Schneider's account, and Patreon's own CEO, Jack Conte, publicly refused. Another chief executive looked at their legal threat and calculated that defying it was the better business move. That's what the brand had become in 2 weeks. Meanwhile, the GoFundMe for Ed Mansell's legal fees passed $445,000, more than double the collection's disputed value. The public wasn't just watching anymore, it was funding the other side. Every courtroom win reinforced the only narrative that mattered outside the courtroom: a corporation silencing critics while an 83-year-old still waits. You can hold the gag order in one hand and the brand's obituary in the other. And while all of this was happening, the people who actually wear the logo every day were paying the price. Mistake number 5. And this is the one every franchise owner should study. Bricks and Minifigs has over 300 locations. The dispute involved exactly one, but the public doesn't punish org charts. It punishes logos. Across the country, unrelated stores, family businesses with no connection to Oregon, reported threats, review bombing, vandalism, even physical confrontations. In Utah, people flooded 911 lines. It got bad enough that Schneider himself publicly told viewers to leave the stores alone. On June 4th, corporate announced the Salem store would close permanently and that it had parted ways with the new owners. The reason given in the company's own statement? Not the missing collection. A, quote, devastating social media campaign. The next day, a Sacramento location closed temporarily because it simply wasn't safe to operate. And this is the deepest failure of the 5. A franchisor's entire product is the brand. Franchisees pay for it, build their livelihoods on it, hand it their savings.
I spent our entire life savings on these things.
Through this whole crisis, corporate fought for its legal position, its valuation, its version of events. The one thing nobody seemed to be protecting was the asset all 300 families depend on. When you set your own brand on fire to win an argument, the people who burn are the ones holding it. So what do we make of all of this? Step back and run the numbers like a CEO should have. On one side of the ledger, a disputed collection worth somewhere between $100,000 and $250,000. On the other, years of litigation, a $500,000 opposition war chest, a permanently closed store, harassed franchisees, and a 17-year-old brand that's now a punchline with tens of millions of views. And here's the detail that makes it genuinely painful. In its June 4 statement, the company finally said the words, an open letter to Brian Mansell offering to sit down, discuss, quote, dropping the lawsuit and ensure he's made whole monetarily. A reasonable offer, made in week 4, the same offer made in week 1, before the lowball, before Go Rogue, before RICO, costs a fraction of the price, and nobody outside Oregon ever learns this company's name. $200,000 was the cheapest exit they were ever going to get. They passed on it to defend a number. To be fair to Bricks and Minifigs, they may well win in court. The evidence against the former franchisee looks real, and the judge has so far sided with them on Schneider's tactics. But that's exactly the lesson. In 2026, your legal position and your public position are two separate wars, and winning the first while losing the second is still losing. Trust compounds like money, and it evaporates like it too. Ed Mansell spent a lifetime building his collection. The McNeff brothers spent 8 years building their franchise. One of those two things might still be recovered. What would you have done in their position? Settle on day one or fight it out? Let me know in the comments. This has been Mogul Mistakes, and the next one is already happening.